All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our first edition of Your Family Bank, your guide for getting debt free in 9 years or less. My name is Nate Hall, part of Symmetry Financial Group, and a certified Your Family Bank representative. Alongside me, I've got my good buddy here, John Adams. He's also a certified representative with Your Family Bank and a member of our agency as well. So we're going to kick this off and get started right away. And we're going to start with some questions here that you're going to want to ask yourselves when working with Your Family Bank. And here's our first question. You want to ask yourself this: are you 100% sure that you're going to have a great retirement, or do you have some doubt? And our second question is, what if we could show you how to get out of debt in 9 years or less, including your mortgage, without spending any additional money than you're spending right now? I don't know about you, John. That sounds like a pretty good deal to me. What are your thoughts on these two things?
Yeah, that's the big question that many of us we want an answer, but we may not have a good answer. And so for us to be able to talk about, do we have a retirement plan that's really 100% confident that we're like, yes, or is there some serious doubt? And for most of us to get out of debt, that is the dream. That is the American dream.
Yeah. Let's talk about where our money is going in the average American household. As you could see on the left-hand side of the screen, this is an average American household. And I know when I ran through my debt and everything and where all our money was going, we were right in line with this. We are spending 34% of our money in interest, okay? And we're spending even more than that. We're spending taxes 40%. And a lot of you may be asking yourselves, well, how in the world am I spending 40% in taxes? I'm in the 20% tax bracket, or I'm in the 25%. You've got to think about everything that you actually spend money on for taxes. Not only do you have your income tax, and that varies by state because you have your federal income tax. You also have your state income tax. In certain states, like where we are in Kentucky, you have a tax on your car every year. They call it ad valorem tax in a lot of states. And here they phrase it so it doesn't sound as mysterious. They flat out tell you it's a personal property tax. We pay that. We pay property taxes on our homes. When you go buy something, you go to the store and you buy something, you have a sales tax. If you look at your electric bill, your utilities, your water bill, things like that, everything's got a tax. It's absolutely amazing how much we actually pay in taxes. And that leaves us with 23% of our income for lifestyle. That's our groceries, our gas, our other discretional spending, travel, things like that. And then we have our savings, and that's always going to take a back seat, and that's at 3%. And that's the average American household. What we're able to do with Your Family Bank and the approach that we take, we're going to not operate like a financial advisor, because a financial advisor, they're going to concentrate on that 3% savings. And you know what they've all told us? You've got to save money. You've got to save more money. I don't know about you, John. You tell me if I'm wrong. I couldn't save any more money if I tried.
Yeah, and it seems like every time that you get a little inch ahead, you lose something somewhere else, an unexpected bill or something that shows up that you just didn't plan for very well. And all of a sudden, the next thing you know, the savings that you had is now wiped away and you're back at square one. You're not even making ground where you felt like you need to make ground on.
Yeah. So looking at this chart, what we try to focus on is at 34% going to interest and 40% taxes, because that financial advisor is so focused on that 3%, and they want you to save so they can get more commission. And they're focused on the wrong thing. What we're going to do is, on our approach, we're going to shrink that interest down. In this example, it's below 22%, taxes 30%, and that's going to expand not only our savings bracket to 15%, but also lifestyle. And that's important for a lot of families. With knowledge comes power, but it's only when you put it to use. So, John, I want you to talk a little bit about knowledge and educate us how money works by using our plan.
Yeah, I mean, when we think about knowledge, we can know things about all kinds of stuff. We can know things about sports. We can know things about historical figures. We can have knowledge on all kinds of aspects of our life. But when it comes to money, most people are relatively illiterate. The idea is that we don't really understand how money works. Well, the whole idea of Your Family Bank is that we're going to be able to help teach you how you're going to be able to reduce the volume of interest that you're paying to lenders, how to get out of debt in 9 years or less, improve your cash flow, decrease taxes, save for college, and have a tax-favored income. And for most of us, the way that this world works in our personal lives is it's almost like the board game. You've probably played the board game where you've spun a wheel and you move the car around. And what often happens is we start out in life, we have little to no known debt to us, at least when we're younger. But then soon we go to college, then we buy a car, we may get married, we buy a house, we have some kids, and the next thing you know, every time that we make a gain where we're making extra money, let's say, we also adhere more debt as life goes along. And what often happens is we find ourselves on this game of life, and all we're doing throughout the entire time is accumulating debt and spending money in areas maybe we did plan or we didn't plan for. And the next thing you know, we end up at a very difficult place in our lives. And one of the realities that comes along with this game of life is that you can read this about online. Usually an American household has about $2 million that comes into their hands, into their bank account in a given lifetime. And when you think about that, $2 million is quite a bit of money. But here's the other reality that comes into play. As that game of life is playing out, where debt is being accumulated, surprise debts or planned for, either way, when it comes to it, you get to the end of the game and you show up, and what do you have? And if you look at the statistics online, it'll say that an individual will have roughly about $60,000 in their funds for retirement. Now, you and I know that that is nowhere near the amount of money to, one, have a real retirement, or even cover the cost of living for any period of time in retirement. And so when we start to realize that we're only saving about $3 million of that 2%, that comes down to about $60,000.
It all boils down to cash flow, and that's step 2 of our 7-step process. We're going to start by tracking your money because you need to control it. So the first thing we do is experience has taught us that by utilizing a spending planner and tracking money, clients are able to find inefficient dollars that can make a powerful impact on their future. Now, you went through this recently on yourself. You went through, it's amazing how much of our money is actually terribly inefficient. And that's what we're able to do with Your Family Bank, is we're able to turn that around. And our plans are designed for real life. We talked earlier, you and I were talking about air conditioning expenses, and there's that famous person in Nashville that we won't mention names, but they always talk about having that emergency fund of $1,000. $1,000 doesn't get you very far. And when people get on that program, you know, it's great. They're going along. They cut up their credit cards. They paid off a few debts. Everything's going great. And then all of a sudden life throws them a curveball, and they're not prepared from that. And what do they have to do? They have to go borrow the money. They have to take one of those credit cards and tape it back together, do what they got to do, and put that air conditioner on a credit card and start paying a bill again. The problem with that is there's no planning for emergency and emotional expenditures. And you're going to talk about emotional expenses for just a minute here in just a second. But that is the difference between Your Family Bank and the plans that we use, is we know that has to be factored in, because we're all human. And going to rice and beans, living off just nothing until you get out of debt, isn't feasible for most of us. So let's talk about banks. Before we get into that emotional spending, let's talk about banks and why banks make so much money. When you put $1 in a bank, they're going to give you 1% interest. Now,
if you're lucky.
Yeah, I don't know a single bank that pays a 1% interest. We're really inflating numbers here. But that bank can take your money. They can take that $1 and they can loan it out seven times. And it's actually, oddly enough, called the 1-to-7 rule. If anybody's ever been in banking, they've heard that rule before, and it's beat into their heads. A bank will loan it out. They'll loan it out on a credit card, charge 24% interest, 18% interest. They'll loan it out on a personal loan, maybe an equity line, a mortgage, a car loan, RV loans. They'll loan that money out 7 times. So you put $1 in, they get to use it. Someone pays it back, they take that $1, use it again. Someone pays it back, they take that $1, use it again. And that cycle, that $1 turns into $7 for them. And actually, if you do the math, the way that the interest compounds and the way the bank makes money, 1%, you're making 1% on the money that you put in, they're making 136%. It's no surprise when you understand how banks really work. You drive to downtown, John, what are the buildings? You live in Louisville. What are the biggest buildings that you see?
That's right. There's a couple of businesses that really stand out when you go into any city of any size, and that is the banks. The banks don't lose money because they make such a huge profit on your dollar that they hold that they are now redistributing out.
Yeah. What we're able to do with Your Family Bank is you're going to use your dollar. We're going to show you how to use your money using unique financial instruments that we have at our disposal to give every dollar two jobs. Not only is it going to continue to make money after you've made that as income, it's going to make money for the rest of your life, but it's also going to go to pay debt. And then it's going to go to savings. And then it's going to go to growing assets. We're able to create compounding interest for yourself. So instead of giving that money where the bank can disperse it 7 times, you can disperse it 7 times. And that's what's so special about Your Family Bank. Talk to us a little bit, John, about debt. Walk us through the family that we had a couple years ago. We're using this typical Mark and Joyce example. Walk us through that.
Yeah, and so Your Family Bank, for many of you that may be watching, this is a whole new concept or idea. You've never even heard of it before, but the idea has been around for quite a while. Your Family Bank has been around, and this is just a quick snapshot of an individual family that did use the Your Family Bank and just kind of what they presented to us. This is a pretty typical American family in the sense of Mark and Joyce. And so as we kind of walk through this gives just a quick snapshot of their situation when they came. The idea is that they were in their mid-30s. They had an income that was roughly around $7,000 a month. They had 3 children, and they had less than $100,000 that was saved in an IRA or 401k. And so they had several things that were coming up that they were concerned about, but they weren't really for sure how they were going to get there. They had a desired retirement income. They had a desired age, but they had no idea actually how to get there. Their financial advisor wasn't going to be able to help them because their goal was just trying to focus on putting some money back in savings. But when they started to look at the bills that were coming down the road, they knew that they had to do something. They needed to get wills and trusts in place. They knew they had college expenses coming. I don't know if you have 3 children or 2 children or 1 child or more, but I can tell you this much, expenses come with children. And so they knew that these debts and these challenges were facing them, but they didn't know what to do from that point. So tell us a little bit about their savings, their interest, and what that kind of looked like.
What's amazing is the 2 questions that we ask every family that we meet with are, what are the 2 things financially that you want to do that you have not yet accomplished? And in Mark and Joyce's, it was get out of debt and save for retirement, which oddly enough is the typical American family. That's what they're looking for. There's not many people out there that will structure a plan to actually do that. That's everybody's dream, but nobody really talks about it. When you go to that financial advisor, what do they hammer? Save, 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 put your money here, and we're going to grow it, and we're going to keep growing it and make money.
And they're going to keep making money.
Yeah, and that's their whole motivation. That's their whole reason for doing this. It's a broken system. What we're able to do with Your Family Bank is we're able to break this down, what John's talking about, and we go through these and find these inefficient dollars. So what we're looking here is their savings and investments that these clients actually had. They had Bank of America. They had a $6,000 savings account. There was an emergency fund for them, and they were saving $25 a month. And then, of course, combined, they had 2 401ks totaling $36,500. And between the 2 of them, they were earning an interest rate of 5%, and they were saving about $300 a month. That is your typical American family in their 30s. Now, this is also your typical American family in their 30s. I'm in my 30s. I was in the same situation. Visa. They had a Visa bill that they were paying 12% interest. Almost paid off, but they just didn't quite get it over the line. They have medical bills, credit card, furniture, auto, mortgage. Average interest over all their debt was 10%. Those credit cards, guys, if you have not looked at your credit card statement in a while, if you're carrying a balance, you should know what that interest rate is. They're terrible. I don't want to scare you, but most of them are 13, 14, 16%. Saw one got a promotion the other day for a credit card. They sent it to me in mail. Great low rate of 18.99%. It absolutely amazes me.
Congratulations, 18.99. Wow, could have been 25.
Yeah. How many credit card offers do you get a month? I mean, does your mailbox just overflow with them?
Overflow with it. And the idea is it's constantly being thrown out there. And when you look at the reality of where people stand, think of our country, of how debt is considered. It is everywhere around us. And the idea is that, hey, being in debt is okay and normal. And here, we can help you get into more debt. And the idea is to say, we've got to break this cycle at some point, because you can see looking at numbers like that, you might be able to relate, or yours may even be better or worse. And the idea is to say, well, yeah, but the balance is only 180,000, right?
It's amazing. It's amazing what that balance really is, and that's what we're going to look at on the next screen. Yes, the balance is 180,000, but if you look at the real debt, what it took for them to actually pay this off over 30 years, the average mortgage now is what term? What is the most popular mortgage term?
Without question, it's 30 years.
Yeah, we do mortgage insurance, like we said, so we've seen this, and that's where Your Family Bank, the concept, really come together for us, because John and I have been out there. I've been out there for years. A lot of the people in our company have been out there for years protecting families from debt, and we're insuring them to make sure that if something happens to them, their mortgage is paid off and the house is taken care of, and they're able to protect their biggest asset, which is not the house, oddly enough. It's actually their ability to earn income. But when you factor in that the average mortgage is 30 years now, you look at this and look how much they're paying in debt. That's 200,000 additional. That absolutely blew my mind when I saw this. And guys, this is the normal American family. We prepared this report for them, and they were absolutely shocked when they saw this. We find that when we show this to people, they almost don't believe it. But then they sit there with their calculator and do the math, and it always comes out to be 100% accurate. It's that rule of compounding interest that no one talks about, no one thinks about.
Yeah, and you know that this is real in your own life too. It's not some magic trick or some sort of an illusion. If you take a moment and even look at your mortgage statement, you see how much money is actually going to the principal versus what is going to the interest. And I don't know about you, but when you really think about that, that should make you sick, because the idea is to say, that amount of money, and a huge percentage of that money, is going to someone else and making them wealthy, while I'm just trying to nick my way through the principal to try to pay off something for 30 years. And that just should bother us to the core. But that's where something like this can come around and change everything.
Yeah. On their current retirement plan, they had $36,500 in savings, $300 they were putting away a month at a 5% annual interest rate. Their tax bracket, we're going to assume, stays at 25%. Now, we all know country's $22 trillion in debt and counting. Do we really think taxes are going to maintain? No, absolutely not. But we're going to assume that it does. And we're going to assume they stay in that 25% tax bracket. They've made $408,890 before taxes. After taxes, that 25%'s got to come off, $306,668. Let's look at what we were able to accomplish with the Your Family Bank program. John, tell us what we did for it.
Yeah, so when you start to run all the numbers and you start to realize how much money is going into interest and how money is not being efficiently used to help build wealth, we were able to help them get out of debt with their lenders in 7.8 years, which saved them over $120,000 in interest, which is freeing up money. So the idea is not only are you paying off debts and you're saving on interest, but now you're freeing up money so that you can build everlasting wealth that's going to go for your retirement. Way more than $60,000, which we looked at earlier as an individual. And so their savings in 30 years by going the Your Family Bank way was over $1 million. And I don't know about you, but when you start to think about how much money that really is, then there comes a reality that we have to say, well, what if they would have gone a different pathway? And this is what it comes down to. If they would have stuck with their current plan, then they would have had only about $300,000 after taxes for retirement. But using Your Family Bank and using this plan to help build that wealth, reduce debt, save money on taxes, and then to free up that money so that they're able to build a retirement like this, the amount difference was over $1 million. And you can see that on the screen. That is a huge difference in the amount of money, 300,000 to over $1 million.
Yeah. I mean, that's a no-brainer right there. And when most people see this, they're like, okay, how do I get started with this? But let's back this up for just a second. One of the cool things about this, and this is where Your Family Bank is different from everybody else. When you do your traditional debt snowball that a lot of people talk about, you pay off a debt, all of a sudden that money has gone somewhere. We don't know where. It's all of a sudden spent. There might be a new car in the driveway. There might be something shiny that you want to buy. You never know. But when a debt's paid off, traditionally what people do is they don't have good enough discipline to take it to the next debt. There's a 1%, 2% out there that are really good at that. With the Your Family Bank program, everything's automated. So it automatically, once it pays off a debt, it's going to go to the next and keep paying and keep paying. And that interest that it earns compounds. So I know about you. I don't know about you, but I'm sure you do the same thing I do. When I log into my account every morning, I see it grow every single time because there's always interest being paid. So if we can take and just assume we're growing this at 4%, we're doing a 4% earnings. That's what we were able to do with that 2177 a month that we freed up. We took it from 306,000 to 1,000,004. When people see this, this is where they make their decision. I want to be like Mike and Joyce. And
Yeah.
I know you said that. Yep, I'm going to be in that same boat, and it sure included me too. So here's the cost of not doing business with Your Family Bank. Hit us with those numbers.
Yeah, and so the reality is, anytime a decision has to be made, if you choose not to do something, there's consequences to that. If you choose to do something, then there's realities that go with that as well. So looking at their situation, and they're a typical American family, for retirement from over $1 million and the interest that would have been saved in the process, over $120,000, for them not to do the Your Family Bank concept would have ended up costing them $820,000. Now, that is a massive amount of money when you consider that most people are having trouble even saving a little bit. To throw away, to let go of, and let someone else get wealthy off $820,000, that is a game changer. So there's a cost for not doing something as well as there's a benefit for doing something.
Now, let's talk about the biggest part of that pie chart that we showed earlier. Taxes. The less you pay, the more you're going to keep. Every year, it seems like there's a new tax law. We just went through a whole slew of them. Of course, we hope that when you sit down with your tax advisor, your financial planner, they're probably going to go over these rule changes with you and keep you informed of what's happening and how you need to adapt. I'm sure your tax guy put you on a path to get out of debt, right?
He's never even mentioned it.
Crazy. One of the things we do is we keep track of these changes, but it's all going to apply to getting you out of debt so you can save more, you can have that discretionary income. So let's talk about taxes for just a second because it's such an important part of our money and where it goes. Future tax rate. John, what's your opinion on taxes?
Yeah, it's pretty simple to think about. If you were to say, do you think it'll be lower? Do you think it'll be higher? Do you think it'll stay the same? I think if all of us have any common sense in mind, we know because of the debt that our nation has, because of the debt that's incurred in states and in counties and in cities, we know without a shadow of a doubt the taxes are not going to stay the same. They're not going to go lower, but without question, they will be higher as the years go by.
So here's part of our education. We want you to think about taxes. If taxes are going to be higher, is postponing your taxes in a tax deferred account really a good idea? Should we start tax planning then after we've accumulated this money in something that's going to be taxed later? Let's look at this in a common sense approach, okay? I'm going to give you a business proposal. Let's open up a business. You front all the money. You write the checks, okay? You're going to take all the risk. If the business doesn't fail, it's on you, not on me. You're going to manage that business. You're going to work at it day in and day out. And at 30 years, you're going to retire. You're going to sell that business, okay? I'm going to get a cut. I'm going to tell you in 30 years. I'm not going to tell you now because I don't know what it is. But I'm going to tell you in 30 years based on my own bills how much you're going to owe me. Sound like a good business deal to you?
Yeah, it sounds like I wouldn't be going into business with you anytime soon.
But here's the reality. Every single one of us that have a 401k, have an IRA that's tax deferred, a traditional IRA, a 403b, anything like that, we're all playing this game with the government. And is there any point at any time when you have an individual versus a big government? It doesn't matter what side of the political fence you're on. Who's going to win? Is it going to be you or is it going to be the government?
Yeah, and I heard something I shared with you earlier. You know, you've heard of the golden rule. The golden rule that we might know it as would be to say that we treat others as we wish to be treated. That's the golden rule. But there's also another golden rule that I read about and I thought was so true as well. And that is the one who controls the gold also rules. And the idea is to say that if we are giving the gold over to the government to control it, we can most assure that they will set the rules to win. And that's the way that the system works.
It's like gambling with the house. The house always wins at the end. Vegas was not built on winners, last I checked. The house wins, the government wins. Let's look at this. Let's talk about an IRA and how it works at the end. I'm going to show you something that I found out about IRAs. Let's use this example, and let's say we put $5,000 a year in an IRA earning 10%. With the Rule 72, with that compounding interest, we know that those funds are going to double every 7 to 8 years. So what advantage do you get by utilizing an IRA? The most common thing we hear is, hey, I get a tax deduction. I get to write that off. It's tax deferred. And you're right, you do. You get to write that off. So at age 45, you're going to be able to deduct $1,250, okay? Because we're going to assume you're in that 25% tax bracket. You're going to be able to deduct that $1,250. And at age 52, that deduction is now $2,500, and so on. By age 66, you've saved $10,000 in taxes. Is that right?
Now, that would be the way the factors out.
Okay. Now, when you pull that money out of your IRA, you're taxed at a 25% tax bracket. So how much do you owe the government?
Oh, boy.
You owe them $10,000, right?
So your tax deferred growth in your savings is exactly what you're giving away.
This blew my mind when I saw this, but here's the reality of it. There's no tax savings. All you're doing is you're taking more money now. You're paying less money to the government now, only to pay it when you take it out. And we're assuming, again, what we just said, we're assuming taxes never go up in this example.
And we know better.
Yeah, we all know better. 22 trillion in debt. There's only one way they're going to pay it. The government produces nothing. Where do they get their money? They get it from us. There's no tax savings in this. And that's one of the biggest crimes that have been beat into our heads. Open that traditional IRA, contribute to that 401k, because you're going to get tax savings out of it. As you see in this example, there aren't any tax savings. So let's take a closer look at that $10,000 investment. 7% interest, 25% tax rate, 28-year growth. At the end, you got a $41,900 in a taxable investment. Okay, if it's a tax deferred, like a 401k, something along those lines, you're going to grow about $49,866. Tax free. The vehicles that we use, total game changer, $66,488. It's clear, knowing the different way assets can be taxed and getting started now, taking advantage of them early in life, is a really good way to make sure your retirement is going to be what you want it to be when you actually get there, because you're no longer taking that gamble. You said you didn't want to do that business with me.
Yeah.
I still don't understand that. I thought it was a great deal for me. We're going to get out of that business, and we're going to do that by planning for taxes now, and we're going to avoid those taxes.
Yeah, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to be able to look at that and say, where would you want to be? The idea is, I want to be tax-free because I recognize that is where the greatest gains are. That's where wealth is made.
Let's talk about risk. This is on everybody's mind right now because the market is up. The market's been up. Usually the market resets about every 10 years, every 9 to 10 years. We're on year 12 of a great run. We know that it's coming. We know that it's going to happen, but it's not always just the market, because we said earlier, financial advisors, they all talk about risk and minimizing risk, making as much as possible, but they're only focused on that 3%. And that's just such a downfall. That's not a good business. We need to grow our savings so we have more to focus on. So what are your potential risks? Obviously, you have taxes. You have market adjustments, what we're talking about right now. You have inflation, which we're starting to see. You're seeing prices go up. It's been minimal right now, but we're at that period of time where interest rates are going to start to climb to mitigate that inflation. Yep. And you're only going to see more of it. You're seeing other countries outside of the U.S. already starting to experience significant inflation. We're not exempt from that. We're just behind. You've got emergencies. You talked about an air conditioner repair that was $3,000. I'd say that's an emergency. It's 91 degrees outside right now. You want that air conditioning. Disability. We all are focused in our agency about protecting the most important asset. Like we said, a lot of people think it's their house. It's not. It's their ability to earn income. When you go on disability, do you know what the IRS caps you at, what your income can be?
Is it 60%?
It's 60%. So disability is a huge potential risk because the IRS isn't going to let you have more than 60% of your normal income. Lawsuits, fraud, outliving your money, and of course, death. Those are all risk. And we're able to get rid of that with a Your Family Bank program. We eliminate every single one, and we reduce taxes. We eliminate all the other risks, and that's a pretty cool thing. So let's talk about the big picture, okay? If I'm traveling, I'm going to Maine, I'm going to California, I'm going to take different routes to get there, right? I have to know where I'm going in order to know what route I'm going to take. Well, it's important to look at the big picture when you're trying to get out of debt or when you're trying to save for retirement. You have to have a blueprint. You have to have that plan, that roadmap to not only get there, but know how you're going to get there. So, what's your definition of retirement? In what age do you think you're going to retire at? Do you have a specific plan now to accomplish that? Working with the financial advisor on 3% of your income isn't going to cut it, guys. You might remember that Mark and Joyce didn't have that plan. And just like everybody that we talk with, they don't have that plan in place, and they couldn't tell us when they were going to be out of debt. So of course they couldn't tell us what their retirement was going to look like because they still have that debt. It's amazing to me, and I know you meet with people all the time. It never was heard of the generation or two generations before us that when you retired, you had $1 in debt. Would you say that the majority of the people you meet with nowadays that are 65 have debt?
Yeah, I tell you, it's probably one of the most heartbreaking things that that I do get to see as we go in to try to help clients, homeowners, and these are our neighbors. These are family. These are friends. And when we go in and to sit down with a couple that might be in their 60s or 70s, and sometimes their 80s, and they're sitting at a place where they don't have a retirement. They're still working either part-time or full-time. They're collecting maybe some Social Security, but then they're also still holding on massive debt, and that might even be a mortgage. And I have seen people that are in their 70s and sometimes in their early 80s that the banks have basically given them a 30-year mortgage on their home, and they're basically renting their home out with no real plan to ever pay it off. And they're basically just hoping to stay there as long as they can. And that is heartbreaking. And so we need to know where we're going and how we're going to get there so that we can have a real plan in place to get us there. So tell us a little bit about that.
And we've got 3 phases of retirement that we're going to focus on. Obviously, we're going to focus on accumulation. We're going to focus on maximizing that money as it comes in. We're going to continue to accumulate it over time. And then we're going to focus primarily on distribution. And that's something that a lot of people really miss. So let's talk about the big picture plan benefits and why it's so important to focus on those 3 phases of retirement. John, you've worked with a lot of families in ministry and things like that because that's been your background. How many of those families that you counsel with over the years have the root problems are typically around money?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. That is a driving force. Oftentimes it spurs off into other things, but when it comes down to it, it's people arguing about money. It's about wasted money, that I don't approve of that purchase that you made, or I can't believe that we're spending money this way. And so when we start to talk about that, when people struggle with conversations in a marriage, in a home, and they're trying to figure out their life, usually money is a revolving problem that brings about other issues. But if you push to the root of it, it comes down to one likes to save, one likes to spend, or both like to spend, or neither have a plan or even understand money and how it works.
Yeah, we've talked about statistics, and no one wants to talk about this, and it's uncomfortable for even us to talk about as parents. One of the biggest reasons for child abuse that happens in the United States and anywhere in the world, the root cause is usually money. It's either lack of resources, it's financial stress, job stress, trying to perform more to get a raise of 50 cents or something like that just to make ends meet. And the reality is debt has broken a lot of the families in America. It's caused a lot of strain. Our divorce rate's higher than it's ever been. And a lot of people want to attribute that to the internet. They want to attribute it to a lot of other things. But the real result is there's more consumer debt than there's ever been. And debt is the real root of the problem. The internet has helped us get into more debt because there's more places out there. Money's easily accessible now. You can get a loan anywhere. You can go online and have money deposited into your bank account same day with paying enough fees. You can get new credit cards. You can buy new things. What's the biggest companies now are what? They're online retailers. Amazon. Look at Amazon, how much it's grown because we have this instant gratification. We need it. We need it now. And there's just so much advertising shoved down our throats. It's no wonder America's in the debt problems that it's in, but it's affected families. And we can say it's video games, we can blame all these other things, but the real cause of problems is always debt.
Yeah, without question. I mean, even think about it. When you think about money, oftentimes when you go to purchase something online with any retailer, let's just say that it is an Amazon, do you ever do a cross comparison for that same item at any other place? Most of us, the answer is no. Why? Because it's convenient to spend money and to get what I want as quickly as I want to have it. And so the idea is to say, we want to look at that big picture, and we want to say, how can we help you not argue about money? How can we find ways to save that money, to improve your cash flow, to have your savings increase, to get you out of debt faster than you ever thought? For most people, to get out of debt in 30 years seems like it's like a form of slavery. You're attached to something. There's chains holding you. And for someone to say, you're telling me that I could not spend significant amounts of money more differently when I do each month and get myself out of debt faster than I ever thought possible. Well, that changes everything. And so we want to help you to prioritize your accounts and then ultimately not only get out of debt, because that's important. It's a major factor. But when you get out of debt, it's going to change everything for your retirement, because you're not looking at debts and holding on to paying interest out to make others wealthy. All of a sudden, you're able to have the retirement that you desired at the age you desired, and you've got a plan in place that is going to benefit your family.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go back to Mark and Joyce's, because this is just so powerful, and this sums up everything we're talking about. You have your projected debt, but the real debt was $380,000. The difference between that is $200,000. The reason they're paying so much more is because the interest that goes out to all these institutions, to build these new buildings in Lexington and Louisville, in Columbus and Indianapolis, and all these other cities. The Visa, the medical, the Discover card, it keeps going. Remember, 34% interest that we looked at earlier on that pie chart, that's what that adds up to in their life. It's an extra $200,000. We prepared that report to show Mark and Joyce, and they were absolutely shocked. Most people are when they see this. So let's summarize what we did for them. Took them out of debt in 7.8 years, saved $122,000 in interest, and most importantly, we freed up so much of their income. Because remember, average American family, $60,000. That's over a third of their income right there. That was freed up just by getting them out of debt. And because of that, they were able to save over $1 million after being out of debt. Most people see this. Do they want to be like Mark and Joyce? Is that going to include you? And the answer, just for everybody that we talk to, I'd say over 80%, the answer is most definitely yes. Because once they see the program and they see how it works, they get it. And that's what we specialize in. Because John and I, when we learned this, we immediately said, first people we're going to help with this program are ourselves. Right. And we've absolutely done that, and it's been a game changer for us. So let's review. We've covered knowledge. We understand a little bit of background about how banks work. We've talked about improving that cash flow, reducing debt, taxes, minimizing risk, and we've gone over that big picture. So now it goes to your decision. Tell us about it, John.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to a moment where you have to say, well, I'm going to choose to at least explore something to see if this can change my situation. For most people, they have a hope. They have a hope that they're going to have a plan in place. But ultimately, we all know that hope is not a strategy. It is not ultimately going to get us to where we want to go. And for many of us, even the idea of the possibility of being out of debt in 9 years or less is really a freeing moment, even in our own minds, without even taking the step. But now the idea is to say, what is going to be your decision? Many people stop at this point. They know what they want. They know what they would like to accomplish. They know what they want to see in their lives, but they have no idea on how to get there. And so the goal of being able to own your own house, to be able to finance your own purchases and not being dependent upon someone else, this is how we can help you, is that you can gather your information, your credit cards, your mortgage, the debts that you have, and to bring those together so that you can understand what they are and so that you understand where your money is going. And then our job is to come in and to help you analyze that data, run reports, get your numbers, because this isn't just something that is like, well, here you go, here's the box, and you just fit into that box. We sit down with you as homeowners, as individuals, and we're sitting down with you and we're catering this to your needs, your desires, and the things that you want to accomplish. And so the way for us to be able to do all those things is that you'll be able to go and schedule an appointment with us. And Nate, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, here's what we're going to do. You have to start by going to the website. Obviously, you're going to gather info, because what we're going to do is we're going to meet with you one-on-one. We either do it in one of our offices throughout the country that we have, or we're going to do it right in your own home, whatever's easiest for you. But we're going to run that data. In order to run that data, we've got to have data. So like John said, you need to gather all the information. But you start the ball rolling by going to our website. Now, it's www.YourFamilyBank Lex for Lexington, YourFamilyBankLex.com. That is just because the agency is based here. Okay, once you go to that website, this is what you're going to see. This is our homepage. You go to YourFamilyBankLex.com and click where it says schedule my consult over on the right hand side of the screen. Here are the areas that we currently serve. Right now, we are serving all of Kentucky, all of Tennessee, Ohio, Indiana, and Arizona. We serve most of Florida from Sarasota to Daytona Beach and all areas north and west of that, and all the way from Jacksonville all the way over to Destin. And then we also service the Atlanta metro, North Georgia, Dalton, Cartersville, that area, all the way over to Asheville, North Carolina, of course, Chattanooga, Tennessee, all of Tennessee. And then we've also got new offices coming in St. Louis to cover the metro area of St. Louis. And then, of course, Western Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, Erie, all points west. We're expanding, though. If you're outside of this list, reach out and contact us. That doesn't mean we can't help you one-on-one. We just may not have a facility or an office, may have to come out to your home or do most of this online. But with technology, the way Zoom works, most of you are viewing this on a recorded, you're going to see a recorded video. This is not live. For some of you, you're actually seeing this live, but the majority of you that are going to see this, this is something we recorded several days ago. We're able to use technology and sit with you virtually and be able to go through that debt plan and get everything in line. So if the plan makes sense and it's going to help your family, it's going to put you in a better situation. Our question is, if it's not costing you anything, why wouldn't you do it? We hear all the time, what's the catch? There's got to be a catch. And we went and we saw this program for ourselves. And the catch was, there wasn't a catch. Literally any family out there could do this program and they don't even have to pay us for it. That's the cool thing about it. You're spending what you're spending now. All we're doing is you're making your money more efficient and we're going to put it to work for you. And that's the coolest part of the program, because once you see your numbers, the sky's the limit to what you can save for retirement once you're out of debt. And we actually will even send you a really cool certificate, because we monitor these accounts constantly. We're always helping you, and goals are always changing. Things are always changing. Things are popping up. But you get a nice certificate. That certificate is literally the golden ticket, because it says I am 100% debt free. And now that you've had this program in place and now you're debt free, there's enough assets, there's enough money there in these financial instruments that we use. Now you're your own bank, and that's what's cool. You don't have to go to a Chase. You don't have to go to a Wells Fargo to get money anymore, and that's the power of what we do. John, I appreciate you joining me for this tonight. This has been a phenomenal session. Anything you want to add before we close down the meeting?
Yeah, just as we close out, just want to encourage you with this, as Nate mentioned earlier. For many of us, we struggle with this because we struggle with the discipline aspect of saving money, cutting costs, and other things like that. The really cool thing about this is we get to do this together. You're not going to be doing it by yourself. It's not just here you go, here's your plan, we'll see you later. There's going to be ongoing trainings, there's ongoing communication. We're going to walk with you each step of the way, and you don't have to pay us any penalties or fees or monthly expenses that comes from you. And so the idea is that we want to help you. We want to do this together. This isn't just about you doing it on your own. We're doing this as a team, and we want you to be a part of that. We want to help you as we've helped our own families, and we can't wait to see exactly what this is going to look like for you and how you can get out of debt, save money for your retirement, and have a whole new financial understanding of where you could be in a very short period of time.
Yeah, one of the coolest things about this program, debt can be embarrassing. A lot of people don't want to talk about debt. It's uncomfortable. It's something that a lot of people are ashamed of. It's because it really does shackle us, like you said earlier. You've got these weights around your ankles. We're going to get into all your debt. We're going to get into every aspect of your financial lives. And we're going to do that because we're going to help free you from this. We have been in business. Your Family Bank, the concept's been around now for 10 years, and it's grown. We've got thousands of clients that have done this now. I firmly believe with the distribution system that we have and the way that we're growing right now, this is a program that's going to change America's families. This is something that is so powerful. We've got the opportunity and we've got the duty to make not only changes for the families that exist now, but families for generations to come. That's the kind of impact that we're going to have with Your Family Bank. We're so excited to be a part of it, and we hope that you've enjoyed this video, and hopefully you've enjoyed this educational process as much as we've enjoyed talking about it. We're doing more of these in the future. Again, you're probably viewing this recorded, but any questions you have, or if you want to schedule a sit down and go through this, we don't charge anything for our services. go to yourfamilybanklex.com, click schedule a consult, and get that done. With that, we appreciate you all being on this call, for those of you that are live and for those of you taking the time to watch this video later. We hope that everybody has a great day, whatever day it is, and we hope to hear from you all soon. So thank you, everybody. Have a good night.